Everything you do with AI right now, such as ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot and Claude, is being processed on someone else's server. So all your questions, documents, files are all essentially public for someone else to basically do what they want with it. Most people don't really think about that. Now you can run AI locally on your machine, but you need a pretty good PC to do that. I really wanted to love running local AI. It would be running on my own hardware, I have all the control over it, and some models can be completely uncensored. However, like with everything, local AI does have some drawbacks. I might ask something on my PC, but then I might want to ask a follow-up question on my phone. But if you're running local models, then all your conversations are on that specific device. But today, we're going to be fixing that. I've always wanted to make my own sort of AI server for a while now, but I've just had no idea where to start. They're also incredibly expensive too. But that's when I got sent this thing. This is the Bossgame M5. It has an AMD Ryzen AI Max Plus 395 processor with 16 cores and 32 threads, and features integrated Radeon 860S graphics. But here's the good bit, 128GB of LPDDR5X RAM at 8000 MHz and a 2TB SSD. I better watch my back having this amount of RAM. I mean, have you seen the prices of DDR5 RAM nowadays? Although they're gonna need a soldering iron because this is unfortunately soldered to the board itself, meaning it's not removable and also not upgradable. Now it was just time to get set up. Despite all that, when we plug in a keyboard, mouse and monitor, it's just a standard Windows 11 PC, but works blazingly fast thanks to the 128GB of RAM, although that seems to be shared between the CPU and GPU, both getting 64GB each. In terms of AI performance, Bossgame makes some very interesting claims. They claim it can run Llama 3 locally with up to 2.2 times faster performance than an RTX 4090, and it doesn't even have a dedicated GPU. Now before I could start building my AI server, I needed to get the M5 set up and install a few things. Because this is a completely fresh install of Windows, I needed a browser, and this is where our sponsor Opera GX comes in. Installing Opera GX is super easy. What I like is that it includes an ad blocker and a free VPN built in, which is nice because they're features that I'd normally end up installing extra extensions for anyway. They've recently updated GX with a big redesign, and there's now a ridiculous amount of customization available. You can completely change the look and feel with GX mods, add custom themes, sounds, wallpapers, and basically make the browser match the rest of your setup instead of looking like every other boring browser out there. The switch to Opera GX was also painless because there's a quick import tool that pulls all of your bookmarks, passwords and settings from your existing browser, so in just a couple of clicks you're not just starting from scratch. So if you're bored of using the same browser as everyone else, check out Opera GX using my link at the top of the description and in the pinned comment down below, and thank you to Opera GX for sponsoring this part of the video. So next I installed some of the AMD drivers and made sure to completely max out the video memory because we're gonna need it. And just look at that, 96GB of dedicated VRAM. So I first of all went ahead and installed LM Studio, which will allow us to run local AI models. This Gemma 4 model works quite well. You can see its internal thinking and the results are well presented, although it doesn't seem to know what a Bossgame M5 is, which is quite funny. I think that's because its knowledge is only up to January 2025, and this is obviously a lot newer than that. I decided to completely ditch LM Studio and take it a step further and use Ollama. Ollama is a bit like LM Studio, but it's a bit simpler. So I downloaded the same Gemma 4 model to see if I could get started, and then managed to open up the ports on the Windows firewall, installed Docker for Windows, and then installed a very nice front end called Open Web UI, which is essentially just an open source ChatGPT-like UI running on its own port of my computer. And boom, you're in. A ChatGPT-like interface running Gemma 4 through the browser on my network. And I can access it from computers, phones, tablets, and all my conversations and chat context is saved across all of them. Brilliant! Now I'm one of those people that doesn't like to pay for AI tools. I really just try and get by on the free versions, So it was nice to actually chat back and forth with these models and not run into any restrictions or limits. I could just keep asking it question after question while it just sat there in the other room, always on. This mini PC is incredibly efficient and uses significantly less power than a dedicated AI rig would. This uses up to 120 watts of power under full load, which is quite impressive. So let's put it to the real test with some real LLMs that should eat into our 96 gigabytes of VRAM much more. It's a good thing that we've got a 2TB SSD in this because I'm about to fill it with models. So I downloaded DeepSeek R170B, and this is where things started getting a bit hot for the M5. The GPU and RAM usage was completely maxed out. I started to feel a bit bad for it. The M5 has got quite a lot of horsepower, tokens per second, but running a 70 billion parameter AI is like trying to read a massive encyclopedia. The processor can only flip through the pages as fast as the system's RAM can actually hand them over, and I think that was the bottleneck here. From asking it a question to when I got a full answer, it took a good 4 minutes 14 seconds. 46 seconds of those was actually loading the model onto the RAM itself. It ran at about 4.68 tokens per second, so it's typing about 3.5 words per second. Now you can go ahead and preload the model onto the system's RAM before asking it anything, but in my testing that only saved about 30 to 40 seconds of loading. So this was by no means like a ChatGPT or Gemini replacement. You'd ask it a question, you could go make a cup of tea, come back, and it'd only just start answering. It was pretty slow. But the fact it even runs at all is pretty impressive for this mini PC. Next, I tried Llama 3.3 70B Instruct, which got very confused when I asked it about turning my M4 Mac Mini into a NAS. It said that the M4 Mac Mini was discontinued in 2009. What? Also, as you can see, it was painfully slow to answer the question, again taking over 4 minutes. I tried messing around with the allocated memory, giving myself more video memory, then giving myself more RAM, which you can quite easily do in the AMD software, but it was making no difference at all. It didn't matter if I had more RAM or more video memory, it was pretty much the same. Then I tried Llama 3.3 70B Instruct Q2_K, which was a lot better, giving me my first answer in just 8 seconds and longer, much more detailed replies in about 1 minute 12 seconds. So much better, definitely getting there. But unfortunately, that's all I was able to test, but it does a pretty good job running that model. Now remember, this is still a pretty capable mini PC, so it can be used for work, editing video, and gaming. And I actually run it through a couple of benchmarks, and here are the results. First of all, I ran Cinebench. These are the results for that, and here's how it compares to other systems. Then I ran the Blender render, and I also threw it through Geekbench as well, and here's how it compares to my M4 Max MacBook Pro. Despite not having a dedicated GPU, it can still game. I loaded up good old Minecraft on just a regular single player world on the latest version, and this is the kind of performance I got. Not bad considering this doesn't have a dedicated GPU, although Minecraft's not a very challenging game. So then I tried Fortnite with just the standard settings, and this was the kind of performance I got. So for gaming, without a dedicated GPU, this isn't too bad. Now, by the looks of it, I don't think we've got an Oculink port, so I don't think we'll be able to add an external graphics card to this mini PC, unfortunately. So I think we're just going to leave the gaming test there. So overall then, is this better than ChatGPT? Honestly, for most things, it's actually pretty good. I think the main advantage here is privacy and being able to ask it pretty much whatever you want, but it doesn't quite have the vast array of online knowledge, but that's to be expected because we're running offline models here. They still know a fair amount, but you just got to learn how to work with it. And also, you're probably going to have to keep manually updating these models as latest ones come out. Now, of course, a dedicated AI rig will definitely be better than this. One day, I will build one. One day. Maybe when the prices come down. The next big problem is that it only works on my network at home. So if I come out here to the office, well, it just won't work. So I'd need to fix this by using something like Tailscale or somehow opening up my mini PC to the wider big scary internet and making sure I've got very good security. But for now, I'm probably not going to do that, and I'm probably just going to keep it as it is for now. But anyway, thank you to Bossgame for sending this over to me for testing. I'll leave a link to it in the video description if you want to check it out for yourself. And if you want to check out my last video where I ditched Android for something more private and secure, then check out my video on Graphene OS on your screen right now, and I'll see you there. Thank you for watching.